Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Podcast, the show where I cover the least in the best way possible. I'm your host, Jason Wells. Today is Wednesday, April 30th. NFL draft is done. There is a lot to unpack. We had people falling much, much farther than they were supposed to. We had some, I would say, some reaches, but this is going to be the full draft recap episode. Usually I just do winners and losers, but I wanted to expand it so much more because this was a deep draft. Again, it wasn't top heavy. There wasn't a lot of star talent, but there was a lot of starters. And I forget which person said that on one of the podcasts that I listened to, but I think it was Daniel Jeremiah, but I really liked that. Wasn't a lot of stars, lots of starters, and I feel like most teams walked away with like a very good draft. So I'm going to try to talk about a lot of different teams. We're going to do some of my favorite picks personally, some favorite UDFA spots that I like, and then talking about just some overall very, very early winners and losers, obviously. Should be a good show. Obviously, we have NFL Weekly Update too. A few signings, extensions, weird things in the league that we're going to talk about right off the top here. But yeah, draft recap episode should be a good one. I guess let's just get right into it here. So, to start off NFL Weekly Update, obviously, if you were paying attention to the draft, Shedeur Sanders started to slide, and he slid, and he slid, and he slid. But at some point on day 2, he received a call. And he answered the call, and it was supposedly from the Saints, and he answers like, oh, I'm so excited to be there, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're going to have to wait a little longer, and they hung up. So Shedeur got prank called, league went to go try to figure out who did it, and it turned out it was Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, his son Jax. He was the culprit. Him and his friends decided to prank call Shedeur as he was sliding. It hasn't been made clear, but Tyler Warren also got prank called at apparently pick number 7, which was the Jets. And again, hasn't been confirmed if it's the same guy. All of the outrage has been about Sanders and whatever, and we'll talk about that in general. But yeah, weird for me to be starting the show with Jax Ulbrich prank calling, but people are losing their minds over it. Like, it's a prank call. But people are acting like Jeff Ulbrich, his dad, the Falcons DC, should be fired, should lose his job. That's absolutely ridiculous. People are acting like Jax need to be like reprimanded, where, oh, he should be like thrown in jail. Like, people are having insane reactions. But then there's the inverse of that, where people being like, it's a prank call. Didn't you grow up? Didn't you do things when you were younger? Blah, blah, blah. Like, lighten up. It's a joke. And it's like, okay, like, that's valid. Jax Ulbrich is 21. I don't remember when I was in my early 20s doing stupid, fucked up shit like that, especially, again, there's levels to this. This isn't a prank call with, oh, hey, is your refrigerator running? No, this is a player this is one of the most important days of his life, and fucking with him and giving him false hope is absolutely awful. And, again, if you're 11, 12 years old, I might be able to excuse that a little more, but being in your early 20s and still doing that prank call, absolutely ridiculous, absolutely shameful. He put out like an apology note thing on like his Instagram story, spelled Shedeur's name wrong. Very, very bad story. That's just apparently like he got the numbers off. Like there was like an open iPad from his dad, I guess, that had like all the players' information. So he took down a couple numbers, I guess. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. We'll talk more about the Shedeur Sanders slide and all that in a bit. But yeah, that's what I'm starting to show off is Jax Ulbrich with a prank call. Okay, we will keep going though. George Kittle signs a 4-year, $76.4 million extension, making him the highest paid tight end in league history at 19.1 AAV. Obviously, something that needed to get done. The Niners want to keep Kittle as a Niner because he's such a personality. The fans love him, and he's still a great player. He gets the payday he deserves. obviously, and now their focus shifts towards Brock Purdy's contract. But yeah, with Kittle, one of the best tight ends in the league, easily. I mean, can say top 3, top 2, maybe the best. I'll leave that up to you anyways. I really like Kittle. Again, he's such a force for that Niners team. He can do everything. He's a great blocker, great in space when he gets the ball in his hands. Great player, great guy in general to have on your team, and I'm sure that the Niners are very, very happy to keep him there. And yeah, now the show focus shifts to Brock Purdy, where I think they even put out that we're gonna get Brock's deal done now too. He's expecting around $50 million. Niners are paying their guys, which is always nice to see. Speaking about paying their guys, Kirby Joseph gets a 4-year, $86 million deal. He becomes the highest paid safety in the league, 21.5 per. Obviously Kirby Joseph has had kind of a fast ascent into stardom. Led the league in picks this year, I believe, with 9. Was a first-team All-Pro. A big part of that Lions defense. Unfortunately, that Lions defense was absolutely terrible last year. He was kind of one of the lone bright spots who didn't get injured for them. But very good player. Did I expect him to reset that safety market? Not really. I don't even think he's the best safety on his team personally. I think that's Brian Branch, who, I mean, he'll get a pretty payday when he comes due. But hey, yeah, when you're coming into like your final year of a contract and the year before you are first team All-Pro and you lead the league in interceptions, you can kind of ask what you want. So yeah, Kirby Joseph gets his payday. Was a second round pick back in 2022, second or third round pick, either way. GM Brad Holmes for the Lions. He does his job. He does his thing. He's drafted really well. So Kirby Joseph gets his payday. Nice to see him. A bit of a lesser signing here, but Tyler Lockett signs a 1-year, up to $6 million deal with the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, the Titans were lacking pass catchers in general. Really, they only had Calvin Ridley going into the draft. Now they add Tyler Lockett, and they added 2 more guys, or I guess I could just talk about that. They added Alec Iomanner out of Stanford, Canadian, who I liked, and then I'll talk about the other guy in a bit, because I actually have a thing to talk about him. Lockett at this point, I mean, he lost his role with Seattle. JSN took that over. I think he's still like a fairly decent slot receiver. I mean, he's played his position so well where he just does not take big hits. He knows instead of fighting for extra yards, he's going to go down. He's not going to take that extra contact if he doesn't need to. So he's been smart about it. It's a good signing for the Titans at this point. Back to the Niners here. Malik Mustafa, their rookie safety from last year. Apparently he tore his ACL in the final game of the year, and no one's known about it until now, basically. So should be back towards the start of the season anyways. I mean, these pro athletes and their ACL tears, like, they'll be, again, if it was end of the season, so that's January, yeah, he'll be fine by September, October, definitely. So Niners, again, not too big of a worry, but that does suck. He was a very good player for them last year. It's just shocking. No one knew for 4 months. No one around the league knew that he tore his ACL for 4 months, so obviously the rehab's going well, I guess, or else we probably still wouldn't know. I don't know. We'll keep moving on, though. Deontay Johnson signs a 1-year contract with the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, everything went off the rails for him last year. Leaves the Steelers, signs a pretty decent deal with the Panthers, asks for a trade, gets traded, and then gets cut multiple. What did he do? He got traded to the Ravens, cut by the Ravens, picked up by the Texans, cut by the Texans, and then picked up again by the Ravens. He obviously needs to figure out whatever's going on personally with him to become, because he was a very solid wide receiver for the Steelers for many years, and for him to just fall off and all of a sudden be a crazy person, I mean, it's very Steelers wide receiver-esque, but don't really see it happening. The Browns obviously desperate for wide receiver help. I mean, they're just desperate for offensive help in general. They got Jerry Jeudy, obviously, but after that, not a lot of depth in that wide receiver room. So Deontay Johnson has a chance to be the wide receiver too for this team, but we will see. Hunter Renfrow, after being out of the league all of last year with a semi-retirement, he signs a 1-year deal with the Carolina Panthers. Panthers offense shaping up a little bit now. We're going to talk about, again, more about it in a bit, but adding Renfrow to that room, who, yeah, in his heyday, very good slot receiver. He'll be battling former white receiver, not former. What am I trying to say here? Either way, he's going to be battling out Adam Thielen for touches and snaps anyways. I don't even know what Renfrow did the last time he was in the league. So I'm going to look that up because he did have a few very good years. He made a Pro Bowl. So his last season, 2023, yeah, he was a 1,000-yard receiver. He had 100 catches and 1,000 yards and 9 TDs in 2021. And then I think got hurt 2022. 2023, I think, just fell out of favor with that Rams team. But now he's back, so interested to see how it all shapes up for him. Isaiah Simmons, former top 10 pick, one of my guys in that 2020 draft. He signs a one-year deal with the Green Bay Packers. This really isn't news, and I probably shouldn't be talking about it, but I'm, again, like Trey Lance, I'm not giving up my stock on Isaiah Simmons too soon. I think he's just turned 24. He's still young. There were guys this past weekend who are older than him that got drafted. So Isaiah Simmons, still a young player. He can play linebacker. He can play nickel for them. He is a versatile defender. Interested to see how he gets used, if at all anyways. But I still like Isaiah Simmons, so I'm going to talk about him. And a few final notes here. The Commanders are planning on building a new stadium at the location of their old stadium, which had a nice scenic view of the Capitol. With the artist renderings of the new stadium, they're going to keep that in. Honestly, looks like a beautiful stadium. Owner, I think it's Josh Harris. That sounds right. I think owner Josh Harris basically said that by the time that they're done with it, this is going to be the best stadium in the NFL, and it's long overdue. When they left, and I don't know when they left their former stadium to get into their current one, but FedEx Field, and I think it's still FedEx Field, either way, it's a dump between broken railings or broken water pipes or just obstructed views. That's probably the worst stadium in the NFL. So the Commanders desperately need a new one. They're getting a new one. And it's crazy in the year since Dan Snyder has sold the team. Just the perception of the team in general. They're getting a new stadium. They're actually run properly front office wise. Coaching looks good. They got their QB of the future. Everything is on the upward trend for the Commanders right now. I'd like that if Miami would do that at some point. But regardless, we can keep going. And final note here. The NFL announced rivalry jerseys anyway, so there still hasn't been official NFL news on this, but a couple other outlets have posted, and I don't know why they'd be lying about it, so I'm just going to talk about it now. So essentially what it is, the AFC East and the NFC West will be getting specially designed jerseys for, I think, just divisional games. I don't know if it's every divisional game or it's just a handful of these divisional games, but they're getting custom uniforms and then for fans custom team gear relating. Either way, I'm excited to see, because again, I think I talked about it a couple weeks ago, just how boring the NFL is and how they don't allow players to express themselves and style themselves properly. And this is just I think I was talking about it with the retro jerseys and whatever, but another way that the NFL is trying to get creative, and obviously making a new jersey, it's just instant sales, instant revenue for them there. Interested to see what these jerseys look like. I guess we'll see, but yeah. AFC East, NFC West are the teams doing it for this season. I think it'll only be 2 divisions per year if they do decide to do it again, because again, I have no idea. And that does it for the NFL weekly update. Let's get into some draft recap time now. So again, I said I'm going to talk about some of my favorite picks, going to do some of my favorite UDFAs, and then we'll get into the very early winners and losers of this draft. So I'll state my picks in kind of the order that they got picked. So starting off at number 1, we have the Broncos taking Jahdae Barron. for the longest time, just everyone was mocking them. They're getting a running back. They're getting a running back. And if it wasn't a running back, it was usually a wide receiver, or if Colston Loveland fell there, it was a tight end. Like, it was that. Let's go get Bo Nix weapons. But they decided to zig while everyone else was zagging, and not really everyone else, but I digress. But they end up with Jahdae Barron, who I have compared to Brian Branch, where you can play him at safety, play him in the nickel. He can play on outside. He does have 4.3 speed. He's a very, very good player. Ended up being one of my top 15 players in this draft class. And this defense just keeps getting better. This was already, I think, the best defense in the league, if not top 3. And in this offseason, they added Dre Greenlaw, they added Talanoa Hufanga, and now they added Jahdae Barron. On top of, again, other things in their draft class, but their secondary could be elite this year. I mean, their defense is already so goddamn good. It was so goddamn good last year. It's just going to continue being elite. And yeah, while it wasn't like a much of a need of a pick, it certainly elevates their defense a lot, in my opinion. So I'm very excited to see how this Broncos defense plays out. Into the second round, we have the Bears selecting Luther Burden out of Missouri. Burden, who people kind of expected to fall due to like off-field concerns, put that in air quotes. Again, I think it's just because he played at a shitty offense in Missouri last year, where like, yeah, he went like, again, his 2023 tape, he went from being like, oh, that's the best receiver in the country, to, I forget who their QB was in 2023 to 2024, but that guy couldn't throw a fucking football. So obviously he was disinterested and whatever, but he goes to the Bears, and I really like that fit. Obviously, they have DJ Moore, they have Rome Odunze, they drafted Colston Loveland at 10, but they get Burden, who I've had comparisons to, he could be DJ Moore if he hits a ceiling. Now he gets to work with DJ Moore, and people are wondering, it's like, oh, is like this like a shot at DJ Moore to be like, you need to get your act together and be a leader for this team, or else you might be on your way out? I have no idea, but as of right now, the Bears have one of the most interesting offenses and skill position groups in the league right now. Again, I've said it already, but DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden now, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet. They've got weapons. They've built that offensive line, but Luther Burden, I think as like a third wide receiver for that team, will find a role. I'm very interested to see how Ben Johnson uses a guy like him, but I did really, really like that pick. We're sticking in the second round here. The Panthers selecting edge Nick Scordon out of Texas A&M. Again, was one of these other players where turn on that 2023 tape when he was at Purdue, he was excellent. Then he goes to Texas A&M, they ask him to put on 20 pounds, and just basically be like a contained defender, don't really rush the passer. Again, Texas A&M full of idiot coaches apparently who can't, whatever, I digress. But Nick Scordon now goes to a Panthers defense that already has some pretty stout players on that defensive line, like Derek Brown. They got older vets like Jadeveon Clowney and DJ Wonnum, who are, again, solid players who Scordon can learn from. But, again, if you get the 2023 version of him, which I think that the Panthers plan to, again, like his former teammate, Shamar Stewart, they both dropped weight. They both dropped like 20 pounds, which also pisses me off because you just, again, whatever. He's still really, really young. I think he can develop into a really nice edge. And it worked out for them because I really liked Nick Scordon. I think he ended up being a top 35 player for me. So they get him in the second while still securing a weapon for Bryce Young, who I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think Scordon helps out this defense a lot. And right now he'll probably be a rotational pass rusher with Clowney and with Wonnum. But he might be able to develop into just like always on the field, that kind of guy. In the third round, one of my favorite players in this draft, I had him ranked at number 14 overall, but the Cowboys get Savone Ravel in the third round. Obviously, a lot to talk about with that Cowboys defense in general, but Trayvon Diggs has been hurt for the last couple years, and they still have Deron Bland, who was obviously like, oh, the pick six king from a couple years ago, but now they get Ravel in there to maybe take over Diggs' spot, but at least have in my opinion, a dominant number one corner to play alongside Bland while Diggs gets healthier again. I thought, again, the fact that he fell to the third round is crazy. Again, I don't know what his medicals look like, but it's an ACL tear. I think that we're at the point now where, scientifically anyways, that an ACL tear means relatively nothing to these NFL guys, because especially when they're that young. Like when you get an ACL tear and you're in like your mid-30s or whatever, then yeah, it's a little harder to come back from. But when you're still in your early 20s, you're just getting drafted, like that, I'm not concerned about it whatsoever. The Cowboys in general actually just had a really good draft. Which, yeah, like Tyler Booker, again, bit of a shock getting a guard, but like immediately replaces Zach Martin, and now that offensive line that's been such a strength for them over the last decade looks like it'll continue to be a strength for them, which is very, very nice. They get Donovan Ezeraku in the second round, who I think was a top 25 player for me, so he gets paired up with Micah Parsons, and then they get Revel in the third round. They had a good draft, and this isn't giving Jerry Jones the credit. If anything, I expect Jerry Jones, he had his laptop open, and he would go, okay, NFL consensus board, and he just picked the guys that fell to him. It worked out. I thought, I really liked it, but I'm not giving Jerry Jones credit. If anything, I'm giving Will McClay, the de facto GM, all the credit there, because I know that Jerry in those, on day 3 in the 4th and the 5th rounds, they probably had to strap him, tie him to a chair to not phone in, to be like, we're taking Shedeur Sanders. But yeah, shout out to the Cowboys. They got some steals in this one. The Seahawks select Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. An outside wide receiver. This is just what they needed. He was injured last year, but again, the 2023 tape was awesome. Still played last year, but was just kind of like, again, coming back from injury, it's a little tough, but they needed a guy like Torrey Horton, someone who can take the top off the defense. We saw what MVS and we saw what Rashid Shaheed did with Clint Kubiak's offense last year. That might be Torrey Horton's role. For any fantasy people out there, Torrey Horton, there we go, might be a guy you try to grab in the last few rounds of your drafts. Especially, again, some of you sickos are drafting right now. This might not even be like, oh, he might not even be a sleeper when normal people get to their drafts, end of August, September, whatever. But he fell to Seattle. Seattle needed a young outside receiver. They got one, so I like that fit a lot. And then finally, one of my favorite picks, the Colts. And the Colts drafting QB Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame. And this isn't because I like Riley Leonard or I think he can develop into like a really good quarterback. This is mainly just because that QB room is now so funny to me. They got Anthony Richardson. They got Daniel Jones, and then smack dab in the middle of them, it's Riley Leonard, who is just kind of a perfect hybrid of the two of them. Which it isn't like, oh, he has all of Anthony Richardson's good traits and all of Daniel Jones' good traits. It's just a mishmash, hodgepodge of athletic QB play with being like, what the fuck are you doing? How can't you make that throw? Regardless, I just find it funny. That QB room, there's a lot of bad QB rooms right now. There's a lot of smelly QB rooms, the Colts included. But no, I thought the Riley Leonard pick was just kind of enjoyable just because he is like a mashup of Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. We'll get to some of my fave UDFA picks here. The Titans getting Xavier Restrepo. Obviously, they landed Cam Ward first overall out of Miami. And who was his favorite target there? That was Xavier Restrepo. Obviously, when you run a 4.8 at your pro day, you're an outlier and you might not work out. But getting obviously a friend of Cam Ward and one of his favorite targets at college will just help him ease him into the process just a little bit. I don't know if Restrepo will actually end up being a full-time NFL player, or if this is just going to be a training camp stint, but again, having your number one overall pick just be a little bit more comfortable during camp, someone he can lean on just a little bit more. It's smart. And if Restrepo does develop into something, again, like, because he is that shifty slot receiver, he runs great routes, he's just not fast. But that's typically the cases with those guys, but usually they're 4.6 speed, not 4.8. So, a couple other favorite UDFAs here. We have Willie Lampkin out of North Carolina. If you've heard me talk about him before, you know that Lampkin is the 5'10 guard for the Tar Heels, who now joins the Rams. I have no idea what his role is going to be with the Rams. I just know that Willie Lampkin is a damn good football player who... Sean McVay is a very, very smart man, probably the smartest football coach in the NFL, in my opinion. He'll find a role, obviously. I'm just curious what it's going to be, because he puts guys on his... Like, he held his own across the entire season. Like, if Willie Lampkin was 6 feet instead of 5'10", he'd be someone starting center going into this year, and no one would bat an eye. But, yeah, Willie Lampkin to the Rams, one of my favorite picks. Next for the fave UDFAs, we have Desmond Watson. Again, like Willie Lampkin, I talked about him in my guys part of the draft, and he ends up with the Buccaneers. Actually, I should give a little bit backstory if you don't know, but Desmond Watson, 464 pounds. I think that's all you need to know. He is huge, massive. Apparently, he has dropped 20 pounds since his pro day. Says that he just loves food, clearly. But he lands with the Bucs, which is funny for two reasons. Because they also drafted Tez Johnson out of Oregon, so now they have the lightest player in the NFL. I think Tez Johnson's 154 pounds. And then Desmond Watson, who is 464. I'm sure they'll take a picture together at some point. That'll be funny. But the other reason why I like this fit so much is because the Bucs have a man on their team named Vita Vea, and he is one of the best run stuffer nose tackles in the league. He's awesome, one of my favorite players, and I just hope at some point they put those two guys on the field next to each other. Like, third and short, again, to stop the tush push, maybe. I have no idea. Maybe the Bucs figured out that you just need a 450-plus pounder to go in there and stop the tush push. But I really want to see Desmond Watson and Vita Vea lined up next to each other in, like, a goal line stand or something like that, because it's hard to move those guys. I mean, just off the top of my head, they would be... Like both of those guys would probably combine for 800 pounds, which is absolutely crazy. But no, I like that fit. I hope the best for Desmond Watson, obviously. And last UDFA I have here is Jimmy Bell Jr. out of Mississippi State, signs with the Chargers. So a 6'9", 330-pound center out of Mississippi State, and you might be wondering, it's like, wait, 6'9", 330 pounds, that's way too big to be a center. Not if you play basketball. So, and that's exactly what Jimmy Bell Jr. did. He played basketball at Mississippi State, averaged 4 points, 4 rebounds on 50% shooting, decent splits anyways, but he's trying to make this transition over to the NFL to be an offensive tackle. Obviously, he's got the size, like 6'9", 330, like that's huge, like that's a massive, massive tackle in the league, but I'm interested to see how that plays out, how he develops. But yeah, just an interesting, man, I like the UDFAs that are interesting more than anything, but Jimmy Bell Jr. certainly an interesting one there. And now we can get into my draft winners and losers. So I got some honorable mentions, and then I've got 5, so we'll go 5 to bottom, but let's start off with my winners here. We'll start off with my honorable mentions. Almost the Dolphins. Almost the Dolphins were winners, and even just putting them in an honorable mention, it means they were almost there anyways. I liked what the Dolphins did. I liked Kenneth Grant at 13. Again, we needed a defensive tackle badly. You hope that he comes in immediately and is a very good run defender, and that the hope is that he develops into a pass rusher as well. We took Jonas Savaiinaea out of Arizona. We traded up for him at the guard spot. Again, desperately needed another guard. I like Jonas Avenaya a lot, so we got those two guys. The trenches already looking better. Then we get Ollie Gordon in the 6th round. Again, one of my guys who... Was he one of my guys? Either way, I really liked Ollie Gordon regardless. But someone who doesn't fit like our what we normally do with our running backs, which that's guys who have like 4.3, 4.2 speed with Devon Achane and Jalen Wright. And that's literally the opposite of Ollie Gordon. He is 6'2", 220. He is a bruiser. He will get those extra yards. He is a short yardage back. He does have the burst, though. Again, that 2023 tape better than 2024. I just really like the pick. Like, I think that he adds just that extra little bit of a different, very good pass protector too, out of our backfield. So I like that pick by McDaniels. But the reason why this is almost the Dolphins is in the 5th round. Again, one of my favorite players, Marcus Mbo out of Purdue, still on the board. And we took, what was his name? Jason Marshall Jr. out of Florida, who's a corner who, no disrespect to him, I just have no idea who he is. But if we could have landed Mbo, actually, I got to talk about, we got a Jordan Phillips out of Maryland too, just adding to the trenches, another good defensive tackle for us to have, good. But after that, we had a chance at Marcus Mbo, and we let him pass, and then he got picked right before the Dolphins were back up on the clock again. It's disappointing. Again, I thought the Dolphins had like a fairly okay draft. Would this have been the route that I would have went? No, but I'm not put in that position, so I don't get to make those choices. But I might have went a little bit of a different route. But either way, I digress. But Marcus Mbo just would have been the cherry on top of the draft. We also got Quinn Ewers, but that's fucking whatever. Other honorable mentions here. The Giants, and this is mainly for the defense side of the ball, but they get Abdul Carter, then they get Darius Alexander later on, and I think that I'm missing someone, and I meant to pull up the draft tracker so I had everything ready for the teams that when I went through their draft classes, but now it's frozen. Thank you, NFL.com, for being a great website. Haha. The New York Giants, there they are. I don't think I'm missing anybody. Abdul Carter, Darius Alexander, they're the ones that got Marcus Mbo, who just, again, I don't know if he'll start for them this year, but just adds to that offensive line that's been needed help. They get Cam Scatabo, who I'm a huge fan, but mainly this is about this Giants defense now, where you look at that defensive line, it's Abdul Carter, it's Brian Burns, it's Dexter Lawrence, and then it's Darius Alexander. That's going to be a very, very tough defense. And you already look, they had a good draft last year with some of their defensive guys like Tyler Nubin and Drew Phillips. Then they add Paulson Adebo back there. Still got Bobby Okereke. Like this Giants defense could surprise a lot of people. So just watch out for that Giants defense. But they deserve a bit of a shout out. And then, my last honorable mentions here are Bryce Young and Baker Mayfield. Bryce Young, they got his weapons. So they drafted Tet McMillan at 8 overall. Apparently he doesn't like being called Tet. But I think it's like the same thing where like Patrick Mahomes' mom, it's like his name's Patrick. Well, I don't care. I'm going to call him Pat, and I'm going to call him Tet. So Tet McMillan, best wide receiver in the draft by far, in my opinion. Apparently him and Bryce Young were working out pre-draft too, so they are kind of have a bit of a rapport. And they needed another weapon. Like, going into this coming year, if they wouldn't have taken a receiver and it would have just been, again, Leggett, Coker, Thielen, like, that would have been okay, but like I wouldn't have been a huge fan. But them getting Tet McMillan really elevates this offense, in my opinion. In the later rounds, they also got Trevor Etienne, who I think is an afterthought. I don't think he's very good, but they did get tight end Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame, who had some injury issues last year, but came on strong in that playoff run anyways. So that helps a lot. And then Baker Mayfield. He already had Mike Evans. Chris Godwin got re-signed, and then Kate Auden, but they add Emeka Ibuka, they add Tez Johnson, and really it's the Emeka Ibuka thing. It's a bit of a weird pick. I don't think this pick needed to be made. especially when you just gave Chris Godwin like a pretty nice, decent contract. Obviously, Mike Evans isn't getting any younger, but seemed a bit of like a luxury pick. But now you look at the receivers that Baker gets to throw to next year: Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Ibuka, and then drafted Jalen McMillan last year. Those are 4 really good receivers. And obviously, 2 on kind of the back half of their career, and 2 of them just starting. So they hope that they can make that smooth transition once Evans and Godwin both call it quits. But yeah, Bryce Young, Baker Mayfield, definitely winners in this draft. And let's get into my top 5 now. So starting off at number 5, it is Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon. Obviously known for his defensive side of the ball acumen, but that's exactly what they did in this draft. That's basically what they've done all offseason. If they have got Jonathan Gannon, his guys, or guys that he likes anyways, and again, talking about like, these potentially scary defenses. The Cardinals defense is shaping up to be a pretty damn good unit. Like, again, I've talked about the guys that they've added in free agency. They bring in Josh Sweat from the Eagles. They bring back Calais Campbell. They bring in Dalvin Tomlinson. And now, through the draft, they draft Walter Nolan. That's incredible. Will Johnson absolutely slid in the draft due to some medical concerns, but the Cardinals took a chance on him. Where if he works out, I would have been perfectly fine with Will Johnson being like their 16th overall pick. So the fact he ended up being their 47th overall pick, absolutely crazy. They drafted Jordan Burch, the edge out of Oregon, who I think he fits that role of what they like. Like, he kind of fits like Darius Robinson, a little bit smaller than him, but very good athlete. Denzel Burke in round 5, who coming into this year, people were like, oh, maybe he's a first round pick, and then kind of didn't have that great of a year, but he can come up. Like, you look at this Cardinals defense now, they've just got players everywhere, and young players, and players that I really like, and I'm expecting like a big jump in how this Cardinals defense performs next year, especially if a guy like former first round pick Darius Robinson, if he does pan out, it's looking scary. Again, Josh Sweat, Darius Robinson, Dalvin Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, Walter Nolan. Then in that secondary, you got Budda Baker, Garrett Williams, Max Melton, Will Johnson. They've got dudes in that defense now, and that is not something I could have said for them last year. So shout out to Jonathan Gannon for getting his guys. At number 4, we have Raiders fans, because you had to witness one of the worst offenses in the league last year. And what do? They get Ashton Jeanty. Boom, running back is solved. Don't have to think about that until he's retired. They draft Jack Besh in the second, who one of my favorite wide receivers, who complements what they have in Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers already. Then they double up on tackles in round 3 with Caleb Rogers out of Texas Tech and Charles Grant out of William and Mary. So again, I think it's a pretty solid Raiders offensive line. Obviously, they could use some improvement. Colton Miller's going into the last year of his contract, so they draft some developmental tackles who might be able to start for them next year. But either way, depth at the offensive line is always important. Like, they have an offensive now. I think, again, that offensive line is solid. They added some depth to it. They have a running back now. The receiving room is now Jack Besh, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, Geno Smith at QB, Pete Carroll at head coach. This offense is going to be exciting. The defense is a completely other story, and we don't really have to talk about that. I will say on defense, though, they drafted Darian Porter in the 3rd round, too, who Pete Carroll loves drafting long, athletic corners who are smart, and it worked out really well with Richard Sherman. We'll see with Darian Porter, but yeah, they had a very good draft. Raiders fans should be happy, especially to see what their offense is going to look like next year. I liked it a ton. At number 3, we have the Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs for just kind of doing what they do every single year, and as everyone says, Howie did it again. Trades up 1 pick, goes and gets Jahad Campbell out of Alabama, a top 20 player for me. Had, I think, some shoulder concerns, and that's why he might have maybe fell off a little bit. But, again, great player. They obviously, Zach Bond, they paid this year. Kobe Dean is dealing with his injury still, but Jahad Campbell has the potential to be one of the best linebackers in this league, so that's why you take him. In the second round, they get safety Andrew Makuba, another position of need, especially after they traded away C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I think it was Charles McDonald over at Yahoo, Mr. Four Verts, who ended up saying it where, Andrew Makuba might have a short career, but, it's going to be the best 30-game career, you've ever seen, because he plays way bigger than his size. I think he's 5'11", 190. He's small. But again, he goes to take your head off. He is a violent tackler and run defender. But again, it just might be a shorter career because of that. They get Ty Robinson out of Nebraska. Very athletic defensive tackle who just joins another long list of Eagles players who just, again, Ty Robinson won't have to play a ton to start, but again, he can develop into a nice rotational piece for them. They just got guys, and the last pick that I really liked from them is Cameron Williams out of Texas. Their big right tackle, I think he's 6'6", 6'7", 330. He's a big dude, and people were talking about him when the draft process first started of he might be a first round pick, probably a day 2 guy though, and he slid all the way to the 6th round and people were feeling bad. It's should he have declared, should he whatever, but then he ends up with the Eagles. He ends up with Jeff Stoutland, the best O-line coach in the league, and now it's okay, they might have the replacement for Lane Johnson. Which is scary to say, but again, if things work out, Jeff Stoutland is that great of a developer. It's just another piece. The Eagles, they never have to retool. They're just constantly rebuilding their depth at key positions because that's what good teams do. And speaking of other good teams like the Baltimore Ravens do the exact same thing too. They have Malachi Starks fall right in their laps at pick 27. Again, top 10 player for me in this draft. Absolutely nuts. Now he joins. They needed a safety, and now it's Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks. That's absolutely crazy for me. That secondary is already pretty good. Now it's going to be great. That defense is just awesome in general. Speaking of that defense, they added Mike Green out of Marshall, the edge. Was a top 15 player for me in this class, obviously not basing that off any off-field things, and there's a reason why he fell to pick 59 was because of those off-field issues that he had. But if we're just talking about his play, he can be an impact player for them immediately at edge. They've taken some shots at edge over the years with David Ojabo, Jason Owa. Did he change his name? Is it just Odafe Owa now? Either way. Who haven't totally panned out for them, so Mike Green could be that finishing piece. They get Emory Jones at pick 91 in the 3rd round, who, again, just an ass kicker, a violent offensive lineman who loves to hit people. I think he slides in best at guard. They have an opening at guard right now, so interested to see how that goes out for them. But again, the Ravens just get guys. They get guys constantly. They're constantly rebuilding. They're always one of the best in the draft. And then finally, the Kansas City Chiefs, who I wouldn't put them in the same category as the Ravens and the Eagles of how they're constantly getting good drafts, but I think that they did in this one. They get Josh Simmons at pick 32, who won't have to start for them immediately at left tackle. They did bring in Jalen Moore from San Francisco, who is penciled in at their starter right now while Simmons gets back from his knee injury. But again, someone who, if he wasn't injured, could have been a top 15, top 10 pick in this class. So that's crazy. They get Omar Norman Lott at the back of round 2, who had the highest pass rush win rate out of any defensive tackle by quite a bit in this draft class. Just don't ask him to run defend. And again, I don't know if this was Texas being weird and just taking him off the field during clear run situations, because I think he only had 84 run defense snaps this year, which is crazy. But yeah, we'll see how they get Ashton Gelati out of Louisville. Adding to that edge, so they're hopefully giving Chris Jones some extra talent on that defensive line to work with. Noel Williams out of Cal, who led the nation in interceptions last year. So just, again, Spags getting more defensive players to play with. Jalen Royals out of Utah State. Again, just another weapon, someone who Jalen Royals like instinctively knows where everyone is on the field, and he cuts routes off a little early to get that proper separation, makes guys miss. He's a very, very fun player. Interested to see how that works. But either way, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, they just do what they do. They constantly get better. And at number 2 here, we have this Travis Hunter trade, and the reason I have it labeled as that, like the Travis Hunter trade, is I think that both sides won. Initially, I'm shocked by it, and I'm like, how can the Browns give up like a generational player like Travis Hunter? And then you see the trade package, and it comes in, it's 5th overall, which ended up being Mason Graham, 36th overall, which was Quinshon Judkins, 126th overall. I think that might have been Dylan Sampson, but then they get that 2026 first round pick next year, which is crucial for a team that will be looking for their QB of the future next year. I mean, we'll see. We'll talk about a guy shortly here. And then, yeah, the Jags got Travis Hunter, a 4th rounder, and then a 6th rounder. But we'll talk about it from the Jags side too. To make that move, to be that bold, to trade up, I like the guts of it. And now on offense, because again, you have to figure out what Trevor Lawrence is. If he's the guy, if he's not the guy. And now it's kind of one of those things where no excuses. You have Brian Thomas Jr., already one of the best receivers in the league. Now they add Travis Hunter. Offensive line, they added some pieces to it. It should be a little bit better this year too. But I was talking to, again, flag football teammate Danny, who's a Jags fan, who he was like, I don't know, giving up that extra like first. But it's like, to me as an outsider, this is the most exciting I've been for like Jags football going into a year. Getting to see Travis Hunter, just Travis Hunter in general, is just makes it exciting. It sounds like he's going to be playing primarily on the offensive side of the ball. We obviously know he wants to play both sides, and I'm sure he will play both sides. So yeah, getting paired up with Brian Thomas Jr. and then Tyson Campbell on the defensive side of the ball, it's very exciting for Jags fans. Like, I would be thrilled if I got a guy like Travis Hunter on my team, just because regardless of what happens and whatever, Travis Hunter will be an exciting player. And then yeah, I talk about that Browns side of the deal where at pick number 5, they get Mason Graham. Then they get their running back with Quinshon Judkins. And I was right. It was Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee at pick 126, which I also like. People were like, oh, why would you take 2 running backs? Because you need to. Like, you look at what that Browns running back room, I think it was like Jerome Ford and who's the other guy there? Either way, it's not good, obviously. So Judkins and Sampson are like a nice thunder and lightning duo. Sampson, like bit of a burner. Judkins, big thundering guy. They also drafted Carson Schwessinger in round 2. Like, this is a draft that drafted Harold Fannin, who I like a lot. Like, this is a draft for like, the Browns had so many issues, so many things where drafting Travis Hunter doesn't solve anything, really. Like, it's nice, and you have a player that can be a huge boost and can help you down the line, but like, they have so many holes where trading back, getting that extra first that may allow you to go get the QB that you want next year in the 2026 draft. It's nice. And then they filled holes along the lines. So yeah, I would have done different things with their draft. Like, would I have drafted Carson Schwessinger at the start of round 2? No, that just seemed like a luxury pick, but I don't know if Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is healthy, if he's coming back. So this might be like, he might just be penciled in as the starter. I like the 2 running backs. I like Harold Fannin just because I think he's a good football player. I think Dylan Gabriel is by far the worst fucking pick of the draft. He stinks. He's not a good football player. Taking him in round 3 is absolutely insane. Like, I thought, okay, round 6, round 7, like, sure, if you want, like, a guy who might be able to be a backup. Dylan Gabriel's not a good football player, though. Not a good quarterback. But Where they did go right, and in the 5th round, they took Shedeur Sanders. Finally, his slide ends, and he ends up being my number 1 winner of the weekend. And I know that you might be thinking of being like, how is he a winner? He was supposed to go in the first round, and he fell all the way to the 5th, and blah, blah. It's like, okay, like, yes, all of those things, but if anyone was realistic about Shedeur, you knew he wasn't a first-round talent. Like, yeah, quarterback's really important, and like, oh, could he have gone there just because QB is such a position of need? Yes. However, he was not a first-round talent. Where he should have been taken is on day 2 or 3. But then you get into the stuff where, oh, he interviewed poorly, he's arrogant, he's this, he rubbed a bunch of people the wrong way, and again, that's fine, that's whatever. But then he doesn't go at like the start of day 3, and he still has to wait that whole extra round. And now Shedeur is someone who, yeah, I thought he was a day 2 caliber like quarterback, like that's when he should have got picked, and he ended up getting picked in round 5 because of like dumb off-field concerns. But now you get a guy who's been around football his entire life, has been around the NFL his entire life, is a good QB prospect. Again, I compare him to Teddy Bridgewater, who, yeah, you draft Teddy Bridgewater in round 2, round 3, that sounds great. And now you get a guy like that in round 5, where Shedeur is going to be pissed off, he's going to be hungry, and I think by week 1, he's going to be starting for the Cleveland Browns. Like, you look at that QB room, I talked about how so many bad QB rooms right now. Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. Why can't he win that job in training camp? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of snaps and touches to go around, but Shedeur right now should be grinding the playbook, working his ass off to prove everyone wrong. And knowing who Deion Sanders is just a little bit, I would assume that his sons also kind of have that same, like, they doubted me, chip on my shoulder mentality where I'm better than everyone. And I think Shedeur is going to prove it. I think he will be their starter week 1. It was clearly a pick that like the Browns brass didn't want to make, because now if he ends up being like pretty good in year 1, now you're put into a pickle in year 2 and into that 2026 draft where, again, they're not going to be a good team this year, but they're put into a spot where, oh, do we go get the QB that we actually want, or do we just stick it out with Shedeur? Like, they were fine with taking Dylan Gabriel at the end of round 3 because they're like, oh, at best, this guy's just going to be our backup quarterback, and we're okay with that. Where Shedeur, there'll be the outside pressure, the fan pressure for him to play, and if he does play well, then that becomes a whole other situation. But I think Shedeur is a winner solely because I think this makes him a better football player at the end of the day. He still lands in probably the best spot where he can to start anyways, so yeah. We can get into some of my losers now. Starting off with some honorable mentions, and my first loser is 2024 first round pick Jordan Morgan, who got picked by the Packers. So he didn't really play a lot for them last year. Kind of got outplayed by, was it Sean Ryan? That sounds right either way. And now it was like, okay, he doesn't really have a spot on the offensive line. Maybe he can wait a little bit, but then they bring in Aaron Banks, and all of a sudden I was like, okay, well, there goes one of those spots. And now they drafted Anthony Belton out of NC State in the 2nd round, big offensive tackle, where now it's like, okay, is Jordan Morgan ever going to play? Like, he seems like he's slotted behind a bunch of different guys on the depth chart with no signs of ever having a chance to start now. And I just find it funny how you can draft a guy in the 1st round in 2024 and a year later it's all of a sudden he might be a backup, I guess. Sucks for him, obviously, but just weird drafting by the Packers in general. But I digress. Other honorable mention loser, it's the Giants. And you're going to be like, wait, didn't you just have the Giants in for your winners? I did. I had my Giants in winners for Abdul Carter, Darius Alexander, Cam Scadaboo, Marcus Imbo. Had it for those guys. They traded up for Jackson Dart in the 1st round. And that is just stupid. Again, we want to talk about like, oh, I hated Dylan Gabriel. That was one of the worst picks. Jackson Dart also fucking sucks. Like, at the end of the day, you hope that Jackson Dart might be like a top 20 QB. And I get like, oh, Brian Dable and Joe Shane, they got to save their jobs and whatever. But like, if giving up future assets and assets in general to go up and grab Jackson Dart, where again, you could have had Shedeur Sanders in the second, third, fourth, fifth rounds, and that would have been a better pick. I just don't see it with Jackson Dart. I don't understand it whatsoever. He's not going to play this year anyway, so for guys who need to win and need like good roster players for them to trade up for Jackson Dart, it just made no sense to me in general. So yeah, they're a loser. And we will start off with my number 5 loser, and it's Mel Kiper. Mel Kiper ruined the draft viewing experience for me. And this was the first time, because usually I watch on NFL Network, but the streaming sites that I normally use were down, so had to find another one. Not going to say the name of it, because I don't want it getting out there. But they were playing the ESPN feed. So instead of watching Daniel Jeremiah and Rich Eisen and those guys, I had to sit there and listen to Mel Kiper cry and complain the entire time. It was unbelievable how much he caped for Shedeur Sanders and how much that he thought it was outrageous and outlandish on what the NFL is doing to this kid and blah, 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 and how the NFL doesn't know what they're doing and yada, yada, yada. Let's be clear here. Mel Kiper, like, you put Jimmy Clausen as, like, your best quarterback, and it's like, oh, if this guy's not a starter Pro Bowl player, like, I'm not doing this job anymore. And clearly he's still doing the job. Where, yeah, the consensus was Shedeur Sanders, not a round 1 guy. Day 2, he should have been picked, sure. But the whole first round, he spent his time talking about Sanders while other players were getting picked. And especially at first overall. First overall, Cam Ward gets picked. It's some great story, going from a 0-star recruit to first overall. There's so many good things to talk about with Cam Ward. Had an incredible season at Miami last year. But what does Mel Kiper decide to do? Talk about Shedeur Sanders and how it should have been Shedeur Sanders and why is Shedeur Sanders falling and Like, Cam Ward didn't even get an interview from ESPN, or at least didn't get shown on the broadcast anyways, because Mel Kiper kept complaining about Shedeur Sanders. And he did that on Thursday night, on Friday night, on Saturday, where the other guys on the panel had to step in and to be like, calm down, shut the fuck up. Like, you're ruining this for literally everyone. Yeah, Mel Kiper's a giant loser for doing that. Again, especially when, like, oh, the NFL doesn't know what they're doing. Like, you had Jimmy Clausen as one of the best QBs over Cam Newton. You put your reputation, you put your career on the line, and you obviously didn't follow through on that. But, like, evaluating QBs is hard. Should he have been picked earlier? Yeah. Do you need to talk about it? Like, first overall, you ruined Cam Ward's moment. You ruined so many guys' moments during this draft where instead of talking about these players and what they've gone, like, again, this is some of these guys, their biggest moments of their life is getting drafted and seeing their name come across the screen and seeing these guys that they've watched other drafts, like, talk about them. But no, you spent it talking about Shedeur and complaining and complaining and complaining, and it's sad. So Mel Kiper, a giant loser. He honestly probably should have been 1. At number 4 here, we have Dak Prescott and Bo Nix for literally not adding any offensive talent. And I'll start with Bo Nix because they drafted Pat Bryant in the 3rd, but Pat Bryant is I don't know what he does. Like an intermediate route runner who can block like fairly well. But if you wanted a guy like that, I thought that Alec Iomaner was much, much better than him. So it was a reach. But now, again, Bo Nix, where, again, that defense is fucking stacked. But you look at that offense, it's essentially the same. Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, now Pat Bryant, Devon Vele, Troy Franklin, like, that's not great. They bring in Evan Ingram, like, okay, that's sure. Running back, they drafted R.J. Harvey, who I thought it was a bit of a reach at that pick, but Sean Payton clearly loves him a lot, so I won't get into it there. But, like, this offense could have been like better. They could have added like another quality wide receiver somewhere along the line instead of just Pat Bryant. So a little worrisome, but at least in the offseason, they brought in Evan Ingram. They drafted RJ Harvey. They drafted Pat Bryant, who, again, might turn out to be great. I have no idea, but Bo Nix is a loser. Talking about another loser, it's Dak Prescott. Because at least with Bo Nix, I could be like, yeah, they brought in Evan Ingram and they drafted RJ Harvey and Pat Bryant or whatever. The Cowboys went into the night with their receivers being CeeDee Lamb, Jonathan Mingo. I can't even fucking think. Who else is on that Cowboys? Let me just go look at that depth chart. So yeah, the Cowboys went into the draft with CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert, Jonathan Mingo, Kevontae Turpin, and then with the running backs being Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. And yeah, that's basically how they finished the night too. Like the fact, like, wide receiver was such a need, and that was getting mocked to them constantly at pick number 12, whether it be Ted or Matthew Golden. And the fact that they didn't upgrade like at all at wide receiver is honestly shocking to me. Because other than CeeDee Lamb, those other guys kind of stink, and we've seen those guys like they're not anything special, anyways. In terms of running back, they added Jaden Blue in the 5th, who he ran a 4.3, but like, okay, that's about it. Yeah, I expected better things for Dak and this offense, because I thought it's like, okay, if the defense is going to take a bit of a step back, that okay, like we'll put it into the offense and it'll work out better. But I've got nothing. So I feel bad for those two QBs. The next loser I have up is the Falcons. The Falcons shocking everyone again on draft night, trading back up into the 1st to get James Pierce Jr. I was like, okay, that's not that bad of a trade, but they ended up giving up their 2026 first-round pick to go get James Pierce Jr., which, yeesh, that's not great. And in terms of the draft in general, like, they drafted Jalen Walker at 15, who I'm not sold on as a prospect, but like, whatever. If you really like him, go for it. But then giving up your first-round pick from next year to go get James Pierce Jr., Terry Fontenot is clearly scrambling for his job. He's trying to make a team that works this year, because if it doesn't work this year for the Falcons, he's absolutely gone. But yeah, they gave up... What did they give up? So the Falcons got pick 26, which ended up being James Pierce Jr., and then pick 101, which I have no idea. And then the Rams got pick 46, 242, and then a first-rounder next year. And yeah, that first-rounder next year should definitely be a top 20 pick. So, yeah, I don't know. That's just like, it was just like another mind-blowing, like, oh, like last year was Michael Penix and being like, wow, that's such a shock. You just give Cousins a big deal, and now you draft Penix at 8 overall. And now this is very like Marcus Davenport-esque, where if you don't remember the Saints, 2017, I think that sounds right. But the Saints traded, no, it wasn't 2017 because they were 2018 maybe, either way. The Saints were looking for an edge rusher. Marcus Davenport was there, and they gave up a future first-round pick for him. And it seems very, very likely. Like, again, I like James Pierce Jr. He has that elite first step, and that's a great quality to have, but I just don't know if it's going to be there, especially just everything else across this Falcons defense. I don't know. The Falcons do weird stuff. Like, their draft was fine in general, but, like, again, not a huge fan. The Bengals are at number 2 for my losers, where they didn't help themselves this year. They basically drafted a bunch of developmental guys who could work out, might not work out. I have no idea. It starts off with Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, who, again, physical athlete, freak athlete, paired up next to Trey Hendrickson. But again, we don't know what he's going to be year one. Like, he might not even get on the field that much if he is that much of a project. But who knows? But again, you high upside guy, first round. It's a fine pick. It's whatever. And then in the second round, they go get Demetrius Knight, who old linebacker who doesn't really play the position that gets played in the NFL, but like, sure. Who they were looking to trade, or Jermaine Pratt asked for a trade. We'll see if that happens. I have no idea. They also draft Barrett Carter in the fourth round out of Clemson, so maybe they're looking to move on from Pratt and Logan Wilson, but as of right now, neither of those guys are going to be starting for them. And then, yeah, they get Dylan Fairchild in the third round, guard out of Georgia, who, like, again, they need offensive line help. Dylan Fairchild, like, I thought he was a day 3 guy. Getting him in the end of round 3, like, it's fine, I guess. Just, I thought this Bengals team was in a spot where they could add people to help them out, like, immediately and bolster, like, this 2025 team, where this draft seems to be like, we're drafting towards the future, fuck 2025, we're on to 2026 already, and that sucks if you're a Bengals fan. Like, obviously, their offense is still going to be good, it is what it is, but that defense is the exact same going into next year. Like, obviously, again, if they trade Trey Hendrickson, I have no idea. If they get rid of Jermaine Pratt or Logan Wilson, I don't know. But, like, they basically helped. They didn't add anyone on defense. Like, maybe Shamar Stewart plays, like, lights out, whatever, next to Trey Hendrickson. But, again, I have no idea. It's a bunch of coin flips. And for a team that kind of just needed proven solid players, I left disappointed anyways, as a Bengals fan, or as a outsider looking at the Bengals. And finally, the number one loser of the 2025 draft, it's me. And you might be saying, it's like, wait, didn't you just have the Dolphins in your honorable mentions for winners? Yeah, I did. This isn't about the Dolphins. And the reason why I'm a loser is because the Patriots absolutely crushed their draft. I hate to say it, but I'm now at the point where I think the Patriots have absolutely caught up into what the Dolphins are doing, and probably in the same tier of teams at this point, where that hurts a lot to say. Where I thought, after Brady left, I thought I would have more than like a 5-year period of them just being terrible. And hey, they were terrible for those 5 years. It was fun. They were god-awful, but they crushed this draft. Like, I hate to say it, but they absolutely crushed it. And so they add Will Campbell. Again, plug him at left tackle. Great. If it doesn't work out because of the arm length thing, boom, you kick him over to left guard, and oh my god, you have Zach Martin at left guard now. So they drafted a great offensive lineman, regardless of where he plays on that line. Then in the second round, they get the running back. They get TreVeyon Henderson out of Ohio State, who, again, will help out in that running game a ton, obviously, but is also already a great pass protector. And, again, that offensive line needed a bunch of help, and now you add a running back who's also just a really good pass blocker. Drake May is, like, thanking the heavens that they've started the draft that way. They get him a left tackle, and they get him a running back who also just happens to block really well. That's great. In the third round, they get Kyle Williams, who's one of the best separators in this draft. So now Kyle Williams, Stephon Diggs, looks a little bit better, especially with the young pieces that they added last year. Also in the third round, they get Jared Wilson out of Georgia, who super athletic, and he might be their starting center going into week 1. I have no idea what Garrett Bradbury's going to do, but, like, again, they're drafting for needs. And then, in the fourth round, they end up with Josh Farmer out of Florida State, just adding to that defensive line, another just good player. And then in the fifth, they get Braden Swinson out of LSU, just another an edge defender to just add to their group. People gave him potential first round buzz, but thought he was going to be a day 2, day 3 guy. Apparently, he also rubbed some teams the wrong way. But I'm a loser because in the 5 years the Patriots have been bad, the Dolphins have made the playoffs. That's about it. And now I think the Patriots are the same level team, same caliber team as us. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Drake May. I'm a big fan of Mike Vrabel. That defense is looking pretty damn good. And now the offense, that offensive line looks basically fixed. They have a new running back who should be a lot of fun. They added Stephon Diggs and Kyle Williams, and that should be fun. People compare Kyle Williams to Stephon Diggs, so he gets to learn from them. But yeah, I'm a loser. I'm a loser because I cheer for the Dolphins. No, this hurts me. This like genuinely hurts me that the Patriots might be good again next year. Again, I'm holding out hope that the arm length issue is a thing for Will Campbell and they don't have a left tackle and they just have to slide him in at guard and he ends up being fine. I like TreVeyon Henderson. He wasn't in my top 5 running backs for this draft class, but again, I'm banking on him not being good, and that would be nice. Same thing with Kyle Williams. Same thing for all of these guys that they drafted. I hope they all stink. But yeah, the fact that realistically the Patriots are better than us again, absolutely sucks. Absolutely sucks. But I will end the episode here. Good episode. My phone's about to die. Yeah, so we're kind of into like the dead season now of the NFL. There's obviously going to be those few vet signings, and I talked about a couple of them in the NFL Weekly Update, but we'll still get more of that as the offseason progresses. But right now, again, we're in a dead season. Luckily for you guys, I have already planned out the rest of the summer until week 1. We have some great shows ahead of us, but just for the next couple weeks anyways. Next week, I'll be doing a very, very way too early 2026 NFL Draft big board with some of the favorite players, some guys who I really like, some guys who could elevate their games just a little bit. And then I think after that, did I have something else? I literally have my phone here. I can literally just check what the schedule is. Because after that... No, yeah, so next week we're doing 2026 really early, top 10, top 15. We'll see how many I do, but yeah, because then we get into Hall of Very Good. We'll have some more fun episodes. I'm going to Montreal soon, so I'll bank a couple episodes with the guys there, do some fun drafts. I got the Vault episode on tap. It's going to be a good summer. Lots of things to talk about, obviously. But as always, if you've liked this, please like, share, retweet, subscribe, tell all your friends, and all that fun stuff. And until next time, peace.